Good afternoon. Hope everyone's doing okay. Today I'm going to be talking about Boards of Canada's first ever release, Twoism. Actually, technically it's not their first release because they had several of those mysterious, unheard albums that they only released to a few people. This album was originally that. It was only, I guess, shown to friends and family, and then it finally got an official release. Now, it was made in the summer of 1995, according to the cartridge. Up until then, all their other stuff had been, like I said, private releases. This was put out to the public, and I think after 2002, it was started going for a lot of money because there weren't that many pressings. Like there was a limited amount of pressings, so people were selling um, Twoism for an ungodly amount of money. It still remains one of their more mysterious releases. You're going to hear people talk more about Gio Gotti or Music Has the Right or even Beautiful Place more than they'll talk about Twoism. It's kind of another thing that drove me to making this review. I think it's a pretty solid debut. It's definitely had a good impact on me. So let's get started. The first track is called 69er. What sounds almost like those synthetic bells or whatever it is kind of comes in these strange wavelengths that kind of sound wobbly. If you really have a good stereo, it's really an incredible sound they have. Sort of a hip hop beat comes in with the hi hat, and that that is overlaid with this really pretty warped melody. Oh, and you have that coming over top. And all of this is a really good opening track. Boards of Canada, like I said, they usually have a very strong opening track to kind of pull you in. The next song, excuse me if I mispronounce this, Oratime? I guess the C is silent. This song is a lot darker in tone than the first song. I'd say, if anything, 69er is very sad. This is very spooky. It kind of has the same flow of the hi-hat kind of hip-hop drums. But there's the reverb on the synth sounds like it's in like a church or something. And, once again, there's these weird warped melodies. There is also kind of these bells, these soft, delicate bells that sound a lot warmer, while the melody synthesizers sound very distant and reverbed, like I was saying. And it's nothing groundbreaking compared to, other more ominous stuff off of Gio Gotti and Music Has the Right to Children, but it's still a really solid song. The third track is probably one of the happiest songs I've heard by Boards of Canada, and also one of the cheesiest, but it's not a bad kind of cheesy. Also one of my favorite Boards of Canada songs of all time, Iced Coolie. It starts out with this very low quality, low volume, I I guess sample of their own music that they made, and it sounds like someone is like holding it up to the microphone, playing it on a Walkman or something. It sounds very low quality, and it doesn't sound quality wise like anything else on the album. Then the actual song begins to start. That's kind of that what I was talking about was a prelude, and you're immediately hit with this kind of neo-tropical landscape. It's incredibly catchy too. I almost picture myself on a beach with a tropical drink. Some of the finest synth tones I've ever heard, and on top of that, there's an incredible uh, bass line that comes about that almost makes a song a little. It almost has a juxtaposition and makes the song a little bit darker than it should be. that boom 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 boom. After that ceases, the main melody comes back in, and it is just beautiful and serene. And it's definitely one of the more colorful and inviting Boards of Canada songs I've ever heard. Going back into the ominous sector of Boards of Canada's discography, we have a song called Bass Free. Yes, bass free, like free basing, but rearranged. Every time I hear it, I get a little bit anxious. This is a very glitched and paranoid sounding song, and I think the title fits it very, very well. Record scratch type of sample that just is constantly repeating, and it brings about just such like an ominous feeling, not like the second song, but more frightening and more abrasive. Not only that, but there's a sampled noise of either someone's slowed down voice or like a lion or some kind of primalistic just animal. I mean, that comes in at a certain point, and there's also more layering of synths overhead that sort of have this strange balance of just of really moody and primal, but also sort of serene. And Boards of Canada is excellent with their juxtaposition of moods. This is another song off of Twoism that is one of my favorites. Now, as for the title track, Twoism, it's really not that special after you've already heard the first two opening tracks. 69er, Orantine, I guess you would say, and Twoism kind of form this trinity of very similar sounding songs. It's probably the most Music Has the Right sounding song. What's funny is that there are songs on this release that would go on to be on Music Has the Right to Children, but this isn't one. Now I will say this: the beat for the song Twoism is it has that same kind of hi hat beat, but there's also you hear these high pitched samples that sound like they could have been brought from an actual hip hop song, or they were obviously very influenced by some of the other records at the time. Maybe something that is not even considered in the same genre. I mean, who knows? It's still a good song, but it's one of my least favorites. Next is See You Later. Here we have a return of the very reverbed synth melody. And then over that, you have these kind of flashy, bright little punches in there. And not only that, this has a very tasty bass line underneath. At the end, it becomes so reverbed to the point that this almost I could consider it dream pop, or even it even seems like shoegaze without guitars, if that's possible. Next, we have a short interlude track called Melissa Juice, which was apparently written by the third technical member ever of Boards of Canada. His name was Chris Horn, and apparently, after years later, he would have his name taken off of this release, which I don't know why. I mean, who knows? People change, and people have their own taste. This song is very, very peaceful. It kind of allows you to relax after hearing stuff like Orantine and Bass Free and more mysterious stuff like that. This one's a lot more easygoing, and you have once again the return of these kind of warm bell sounds. And over the top of that is kind of uncharacteristic of Boards of Canada, but it almost sounds like a Moog synthesizer, very high pitch, kind of whiny kind of rhythm, but it works very well for what they're doing. Once again, this is a very short track, kind of an interlude. The last song is something that would later end up on Music Has the Right to Children, and it's very fitting. This is also one of my favorite songs by Boards of Canada. It is called Smoke's Quantity, which is apparently named after someone the uh, the twins from Boards of Canada knew, or the brothers, I mean. I don't know who it was, but what a nickname, huh? This song, the way it makes me feel, and the tones of the, I guess, damaged tape and warping tape that they use, it could almost work on Gio Gotti. It's that ominous. It's not. I wouldn't say it's as abrasive as something like Bass Free, but it still has this uneasy feeling to it, and it's this kind of strange loop that keeps repeating, and it sounds like the tape is just warped to hell and damaged, and almost about like it's about to like just like disintegrate entirely. It's some of the best tone on an album I've ever heard. Then we're met with the familiar hi-hat hip-hop beat that Boards of Canada kind of uses as a crutch, but once again, they make it work so well. And in the very distance, there's some more of that great Boards of Canada reverb, and you hear the plunking of a piano or something that once again sounds like it was done in a cathedral of some kind. But what I like about this little melody is that it sounds so far away, and the timing is strange. Bup, 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 bup. The gaps between each note just make it so eerie, and it almost the tone of that instrument, whatever it is, piano or what, has a childlike quality to it, kind of like one of those boxes with the spinning ballerinas. It reminds me of something like that. Anyways, overall, Twoism, I don't think it's one of Boards of Canada's strongest releases. I definitely, in terms of their EPs, I would put this above Trans Canada Highway, but below Beautiful Place Out in the Country. And it has nowhere near the diversity of one of their full albums. I like this EP quite a bit. It's the first time I heard it, it just completely went by. I mean, one ear out the other. It wasn't bad, but it just didn't pull me in as much as what I had listened to at the time, which was mainly Gio Gotti and Music Has a Right. For what it is, it's a good EP, and while it's not the most memorable of the releases, they still managed to have their own sound and have their own stamp on music with their first release. And not a lot of people do that. I would give this EP probably about a 6 out of 10. Good, but not the greatest of Boards of Canada's discography. Anywho, this is the review for Twoism. Thank you for watching.